This week on the Late Apex, we take a look back at the ADAC SimRacing Expo. Hello and welcome to this week's The Late Apex. And well, it has been a busy week to say the least. I'm Tim Cox with Sam Fitzpatrick alongside me as always. And of course, it was the ADAC 2022 Sim Racing Expo. And there was a lot came out of it, wasn't there, Sam? Should we kickstart with the wheels first of all? Because there's quite a bit of development there, isn't there?
Lots of real-life racing teams are colluding with sim racing producers and making kind of matching wheels for both the sim racing world and the real racing world as well. So, for example, we have got the Ascher rim, which was announced a couple of weeks ago. They are producing 4 different wheel rims, Tim. One of them matching the currently concept GT4 McLaren, which is going to be in action in 2023, along with 3 other wheels as well. But yeah, one of those wheels pretty much identical to the real-life car. For
me, it looks like the previous generation Ascher wheels, if you have the very bottom spec one. And also, it was very interesting, the comments that Ascher were making as well, that you know, there's not really a lot of buttons on the real-world wheel that's used in the car.
Exactly, and so that's why they've produced the 4 different rims. So you've got the very basic real-life GT4 rim, and then you've got a couple more which kind of step it up slightly, and then you've got the most advanced wheel as well, the Ultimate USB, which has extra inputs and also an LCD display as well, so you can see a lot of information on the wheel. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point that, you know, it maybe brings into question, should sim racing be replicating real world wheels? Because you don't need the same stuff. You need more buttons, but you need less of a display because the display is already on the HUD within the sim.
Equally, we like to spend our money. We like to have the biggest, shiniest, most spectacular toy. And having that screen in front of you, it just feels that little bit nicer.
And of course, the whole thing, why you want a McLaren wheel is because you want to feel like you're driving the actual car. So if you have that wheel, then it does increase that immersion, doesn't it? Another company who were sort of doing a similar thing were Cube Controls, because they have 2 new Mercedes wheels being released. The Mercedes-AMG GT Track Series steering wheel, which is from the track car that Mercedes are producing. It's like I think a limited edition, only 55 being made, I believe. But they've sort of got the same issue where the wheel has limited buttons, so they've also released a secondary wheel, which is better for kind of single seater racing, where you've got a fair few more buttons for when you're driving during a race, so you can adjust stuff.
I do have to wonder, is it to have quite as many? Is it going to be a bit confusing? Does it reach the point of overkill? Is the question I am asking you, Sam Fitzpatrick.
You look at the wheels that Gomez, for example, produces, GSI. I mean, they're like pieces of art pretty much at that point, where you've got so much fitted in, and you can't help but feel like get excited about that, you know.
Fanatec, Sam, another wheel producer, and interestingly as well, I'm going to bring this one up. I think there are a few shots fired to them from Asetek.
Fanatec previewing a couple of their wheels, their BMW wheel as well, which should be available soon. I was most interested actually by their Bentley wheel, which is the exact same as the one that they're using in the Pikes Peak.
So similar to the McLaren wheel.
Exactly,
over,
yeah. But it's the same wheel. Like, you can literally bolt it onto the real car, or you can bolt it onto the Fanatec equipment as well. Another sort of debate which is brewing in sim racing is when it comes to quick releases. Is it all right for companies to force consumers to stay within an ecosystem such as Fanatec, where you can only use Fanatec rims on Fanatec direct drive bases, compared to the likes of Asetek, who are making quick release systems which can be used for any wheel?
Asetek was saying that they've partnered with lots of other companies because they want to work with them and have almost like a greater good and that air of flexibility. You know, if you want to have, you know, a wheelbase from, I don't know, Ascher, for example, and you want to have a Simucube base, then that's going to be completely fine. And they've signed partnerships with a lot of the wheel manufacturers to utilise their quick release system.
And a very nice quick release system as well. Both Fanatec and Asetek got very nice, like particularly the Asetek one I thought looked very good. I mean, it's just so easy to be able to change the wheel. So a lot of people impressed by that one. And generally Asetek as well. I mean, we should say, I mean, I think they've done a brilliant job with all the stuff that they have deployed in a short period of time. Not only did they have their bases, but they also had their pedals as well.
Well, I think that's a nice segue into our next segment, isn't it? Talking about pedals, Asetek are looking more down the hydraulic route for their premium offering, whereas Simucube, of course, the active pedal system that we've seen and we spoke about here recently on the late Apex, two very different systems.
It's very different. Asetek had their ABS pedal add-on, which is a lot cheaper than the Simucube Active, because the big thing about the Active pedal is the force feedback element of it, the fact that you can feel the ABS, you can feel the traction control coming through the pedal. Of course, if you have add-ons that Asetek have produced, means that you don't have to spend the $2,000 per pedal that Simucube are asking for. We've chatted a bit about the SimRacing Expo, but there are a few links in the description below for a few of the videos that we checked out when it came to the SimRacing Expo. They are very good stuff, so if you want to learn more about what happened with the SimRacing Expo, some more detail, then do click on those videos in the description below.
Obviously, that aside, there is some other news that's been coming out of sim racing this week. Let's take you through the rundown. First off, iRacing have released their 2023 Season 1 build, delivering a wide range of updates, including the new Magny-Cours circuit, the BMW M Hybrid, and changes to the GT3 cars. Of course, you can check out the previous episodes of the late Apex, and of course, the Apex Racing Team YouTube channel for detailed videos on each of those over the next week. Race Roof's Drivers DLC pack is set to be released later this month, featuring French Circuit de Charade, along with the Creusot 9S, the Creusot 90F, the Mazda MX5, and the Praga R1. BMG have teased several new pieces of content, in addition to a new desert map. The sim is set to add 3 new cars, the Baja truck, the Automobile van, and the Labrador Beaver, to improve the game's off-road content. We're going to head to a quick break now. On the other side, Apex Racing Team's pro driver Jamie Fluke takes us around Magny-Cours, the new iRacing circuit, and we take a look ahead to what's happening this week on Apex Racing TV.
Okay, so we're in sim now, and we're going to take our first look at Magny-Cours in my trusty Porsche 992 Cup car. So pit lane's nice and wide on the way out, and then tightens up actually quite a bit down here just as we're coming out of pit lane. Roll through nice and slow. A lot of runoff here coming out of turn 3. And then the track really tightens up on the way out here, with track limits there being the red and white curb. Coming up now to the Adelaide hairpin, this will be the scene of, I'm sure, many an incident. Hard on the brakes. Very, very tight, pinches in, and it's quite tight on exit here as well. So I am going to expect some incidents and carnage here across many series. Let's back it down here into the chicane here. Big sausage curve on the inside. It'll be interesting to see whether that's something that we take, and then immediately into the 180 hairpin here. Very, very, very long hairpin. Trilling all the way in, and then straighten the car out and try and avoid the gravel on the right hand side. Track looks very, very nice, I must say. Irish have done a very, very good job on it. To the second of the chicanes in the middle of the lap here. Plenty of runoff on the inside of the corners, so track limits are going to be a potential concern before we get into Chateau d'Eau here. Very tight, awkward first/second gear corner, and then into the difficult last sector. So again, just get the car straightened up on the brakes, downhill braking. The car will probably want to understeer quite a bit through here, and then the awkward final chicane. Very, very steep curving, very steep. So not every car will be able to manage that particularly well. Turn 1 and 2. In a car like this, we will require some brake input, but in an F1 car, I believe this is absolutely pinned. Deep curve. Interesting now that we've got a slowdown penalty without picking up an off track, so that might be something for the iRacing devs to look at. I'll just clear the slowdown there. Potential send opportunity down into here, but there's not an awful lot of room on exit, so cars will probably end up being pushed wide here, and then how do you go too wide through here? I'm not entirely sure. Track limit, so we can run all the way out to here. So as long as you've got a tyre on the green and white curbing there, then you should be fine.
So to wrap up with my first impressions of Magny-Cours, I'm a big fan of it. It's a track that flows quite nicely, has a good mix of high speed and low speed corners. There's a clear overtaking opportunity into the Adelaide hairpin. My one concern mainly with the track, outside of obviously the little bugs in terms of track limit, is sort of the raceability of the track. For cars that are a little bit quicker than the Porsche Cups, like GT3, LMP2 and so on, cars at that kind of speed, are they going to suffer too much through the high speed corners so they can't stay tight enough to actually make a move into the Adelaide hairpin? That remains to be seen. And if it is a struggle, then the community probably is going to take too kindly to that and probably not race the circuit if it doesn't race particularly well. So in time we'll learn a little bit more about that, but for now I'm a big fan of the track and it gets a solid thumbs up from me.
Well, Sam, that looks like an absolutely cracking track. It's been donkey's years since I've driven it. I'm really looking forward to getting down, dirty, and stuck into some good old multi-class endurance action around there.
Yeah, I'm sure the multi-class series will be visiting there only a matter of time. I've been looking forward to it for a while. I think it's a great driver's circuit. So, yeah, really looking forward to trying lots of different cars on that. And, of course, if you want to see the full review from Jamie of Magny-Cours, do check out the Apex Racing Team YouTube channel. There'll also be reviews as well of the BMW LMDH and also the new GT3 cars as well, with the changes which have been made for that. So, yeah, do check out the Apex Racing Team YouTube channel for all of that. And well, I think, Tim, we can have a look at what's coming up next week on Apex Racing TV.
And getting back into the seasons in iRacing as well. New season, new opportunity, slate white clean. What's your pick of the bunch from this week's worth of action?
Well, we've already had one round of the BRSCC Mazda MX5 Winter Cup. So I sat down with Blackwell Chambers in order to discuss the first round of the series and also what is coming up for the rest of the championship. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. First up, tell us what the BRSCC is all about.
So the British Racing Sports Car Club, so the BRSCC, is basically it's one of the racing clubs in the UK. So there's a number of them that sort of host the races that series do. So on the whole, either the BRSCC will develop a series and promote that themselves, and they run events for it, or they will invite certain series where, if a series managed to be successful on its own, they've gone and joined the BRSCC. So you could kind of say the BRSCC is almost like the interface between the circuits and of the racing series.
And what are sorts of the ambitions in terms of going into the esports world now for the organisation?
So traditionally racing occurs during the summer. My last round was in September or something like that, September, October. And for 3-4 months of the year, you don't do a lot. So I proposed to the BRSCC, hang on, I like iRacing. Can we do a winter series and sort of just see who else has got who's got iRacing, who's got a SimRacing, because we didn't really know going into this, because the idea was we wanted to keep it within drivers of the BRSCC to try and sort of foster an esports community within that.
What do you guys have planned for next year, both in real life and in the virtual world?
So we're going to try and run another series during the summer months and see how that goes. But we'll certainly be running another winter one. And then the idea as well is what we're going to try and do is hopefully other clubs such as Park and 750 Motor Club see the success that we've had with this winter series and start doing their own iRacing series. So part of a multi-year plan, and hopefully working with Motorsport UK, who have been watching what we've done, because I think we are the first club that's sort of done this, is to bring esports out of the clubs and then hopefully sort of do some, I'd like to say some sort of inter-club rivalry series at the end of it.
Sorts of, when it comes to kind of Motorsport UK and other organisations, the attitude towards esports has changed. What about in terms of the drivers? I mean, 10 years ago, do you think this sort of championship would have been possible, or do you think it wouldn't have been taken as seriously as it is now?
I've heard even people have stopped racing, because they've done whatever, and they're saying, this is actually starting to give me the same kind of feel that I used to have when I was sat on a grid at the start of an iRace. And that's what I think is absolutely brilliant, is you can go racing for not even a thousandth of the cost almost and have the same feeling out of it. And that's why I love it, because if I sit on a grid on the Mazda, you do get nervous, and it's the same thing now sitting when we're having these proper league races. You're sat in a virtual Mazda and you're getting the same sort of nervousness of, God, I need to survive through turn one, and that's awesome that you can get that from this.
Absolutely. And in terms of the series this season, Will Redford absolutely dominant in round one of the championship. He won all 3 races. Do you think there's anyone within the series who can challenge him for the title this year?
There's a couple. I think he has got a little bit of the legs on everyone, but this was the first round, so it depends how others catch it. You've got Mikey Doble, who's very, very quick. He's Ginetta and I believe Compact Cup champion out of this year. You've got Jack Noller, who is Williams Esports. And you've also got Tom Griffiths, who's very, very quick. So I think they might have a chance.
Well, thanks for playing on this series, and we look forward to seeing the rest of the championship.
And that's all we've got time for this week on The Late Apex. I've been Tim Cox with Sam Fitzpatrick, and we'll see you in a week's time.